Okay. It's Feast of Tabernacles is our teaching today for the Sunday message. It's going to be awesome. It's usually done in 2 parts, but your pastor's leaving for Arkansas soon. So we're going to do it in 1 part with a teaching before the teaching as a bonus. How's that? Okay, because we have to do our outpouring of water ceremony next week, and I do not want to miss that. So the Feast of Tabernacles, as you're going to learn later on in this service, is known as the Feast of Joy, or the season of joy. And as you're also going to hear, it begins this today at sundown. Hopefully the skies will clear because it will open up with a full eclipse of the full moon, which is what people are calling the blood moon. Okay, the full eclipse will be tonight at when the moon comes up. Okay, so that's what Tabernacles opens up with. Now, this is what I want you to see. It's during this feast that the scriptures point to our Messiah's birth, the birth of Yeshua. So I'm not saying we all celebrate Christmas in here. It's okay to celebrate Christmas. We can celebrate the birth and the coming of our Messiah as well as everybody else can, all right? But I do want you to know the history, and I want you to understand the truth that it was during this time. This is why this is called the season of joy. It was during this time that our Messiah was born, okay? So we get to celebrate it twice. And we should celebrate Jesus every day, but we celebrate the Messiah at the Feast of Tabernacles. It's all about his presence, folks. Okay, in John 1:14, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. He came down and tabernacled with mankind. Luke 2:10, then the angel said to them, do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy. So we see the season of joy. From biblical times till now, the shepherds would send their flocks out in the field right after Passover. They would remain there until the cold rains and frost in October, and then they would bring them back in. So in other words, there were no shepherds living out in the fields during the cold nights of December, okay? And there are many scriptures. We're not going to go through all of them when you look up the lineup of the priesthood and other things, but there are many scriptures that seem to tell us that our Messiah was born during the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Joy, okay? By following the order of the priesthood, we can know that the time of John the Baptizer, that his birth would have been approximately during Passover, this is awesome as well. This is what you miss when you don't study the scriptures with a Jewish mindset, that what is one of the things that we do during a Passover Seder? Yes, they're always waiting for the return of Elijah. Well, John the Baptizer was born during the Feast of Passover. Isn't that awesome? So when you line all that up, then you will see 6 months following Elizabeth's conception, the angel Gabriel is sent to Miriam, which is Mary, the mother of Jesus, the cousin of Elizabeth. And so what we see is starting at Hanukkah, which is the festival of light, which begins on Kislev 25 and continues for 8 days. And you count through the 9 months of Mary's pregnancy, it brings us to the approximate time of the Feast of Sukkot, which means, and this is so awesome, that Jesus would have been conceived. The time that we celebrate Christmas, what greater miracle than the conception? The miracle conception. So the time we celebrate Christmas, you're looking at that time, it overlapped with Hanukkah. So Jesus was conceived during the festival of light. I mean, come on, guys. I think that is awesome. So he was conceived during the festival of light, okay? And then he was born during Sukkot. Okay, so the Feast of Booths, the Feast of Sukkot or Tabernacles, is when we remember the dwelling of God with man. When God came down and tabernacled with mankind. I love that picture. It's beautiful. Okay, so during Tabernacles, we take time to remember, and we're going into Tabernacles this evening, we take time to remember the hope we have of his future dwelling upon the earth, because Tabernacles focus all about his presence. And I want to tell you, every year I try to set up a Sukkot in my yard. Every year it rains. All right, and sure enough, it started raining. And, and I was just like a little frustrated. And then I pull up into the parking lot, and I'm like, okay, how many people are going to show up because it's raining, And so I'm thinking this out loud, and the Holy Spirit ministered to me. And because remember that Tabernacles is all about His presence. And, this is so typical for life, because are we going to still sit in His presence even when the circumstances in life that surround us, are a little rough, a little rocky, a little rainy? Are we still going to take that time to sit in His presence? So your pastor may be sitting out in her suit coat every night in the rain, because I need to remember that it represents life. And even though life is rough sometimes, even though it doesn't go as smooth as we think that it should, we should still take time to sit in His presence. Okay? And so I encourage you, whatever type of suit coat, you're going to learn more about it during the message. Whatever type of sukkah that you build, sukkah is singular, sukkot is plural. Whether it's just you guys getting a tent and sticking it in your backyard, taking a few nights, it's the spirit of the law that matters. Taking a few nights and spending some time out under the stars or under the rain, in a tent with your family. The idea is for you to be able to see the stars in the harvest moon. But it's all about being still and sitting in His presence, spending time with family. All of the feasts of the Lord, all of His festivals are about spending time with God and spending time with family. Okay, so Sukkot is a time when all nations will celebrate this wonderful and glorious feast. It's a feast of the nations. It's a feast of the nations. It's the one time that the Gentiles will also go up to Jerusalem. So remember, the feasts are the Lord's feast, and just like our Messiah, Yeshua, the feasts are for all people. They're for all nations, and God is still inviting people from the four corners of the earth to come and dine with Him. Amen? Amen. Amen. Okay, Pastor Nick, you want to come and